Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel once again. So today I want to discuss The Dark Tower, and not only just the Dark Tower series as a whole, but what some people like to call the expanded journey to the Dark Tower. So like anything else, this is up for interpretation. This is going to be my personal expanded journey to the Dark Tower, how I believe would be the best way to read it. So if you're new to the Dark Tower series, or if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say the expanded journey to the Dark Tower, it's basically you're mixing in reading other Stephen King novels that are related to the Dark Tower series. That would basically just expand the journey and make it a longer journey for you and more in-depth. And I guess it'd just be pretty cool to read some of the novels that have some of the characters that are in the Dark Tower series before you actually see them in the series. So I guess in a nutshell, that is the gist of it. So yeah, let's get right into it with the first book in the expanded Dark Tower read. Okay, so obviously no big shocker here. The first book you're going to want to start with would be the first book of the series, The Gunslinger. So obviously, those of you who have gone on a journey or two to the tower have started with the Gunslinger, and you would know that it is a bit of a different start to the series. It reads a little bit different than book 2 or book 3 say, but it is integral. Obviously, we get to meet Jake, one of our major characters, and his relationship with Roland as it kicks off here in this novel. And yeah, I mean, you get it started with this one. It's a good read. I've read it twice, and I found the second time I read it, I appreciated it a little bit more and understood it a little bit more. So for myself, getting ready to embark probably on my third journey through the tower, I'm excited to read this one once again a few years later now and see what I think of it the third time around. But yes, the Gunslinger is obviously the first book to read. Next up, you're going to want to go to book number 2 of the Dark Tower series, which is The Drawing of the Three. Now, I would say that if you get to about 100 or 150 so pages into this one and you are not enjoying it, maybe the Dark Tower series isn't for you, and maybe, Stephen King isn't for you, to be honest with you, because this book is really good. But I found that is probably a gauge that you could go by to not force it. If you're not enjoying it, then hey, it's not for you. It's not for everybody. But yes, Drawing of the Three, really, really good book. In my opinion, this is where the series really starts to pick up. This is where you really start to meet a lot of the other major characters, and the characters start to develop and everything like that. So yes, this one is action-packed, and I really did love this book. So obviously a conventional start here to the expanded read as we go 1 and 2 in the Dark Tower series. So Drawing of the Three next up. Next up, we're going to stray off the main series for the first time. So for book number 3, we're going to go with The Stand. And yes, let's make sure it's the complete and uncut edition as opposed to the original. So the reason why I chose this one next up is obviously because there is a major character, a major villain from the Dark Tower series that I believe you're going to want to meet before he shows his face in the series. I think that would just be a better impact, and we all know who he is, Randall Flagg, among other names, obviously. But yes, so this is the book that he is, I believe, the most prominent in, and I think it'd just be great to read through this one, get to know Flagg before he starts tormenting our quartet in the Dark Tower series. So next up, like I said, complete and uncut version of The Stand. Sticking with the same theme now, we're going to move to Eyes of the Dragon, book number 4 in our expanded read. So like I said, same theme, another Randall Flagg novel. So again, we're going to get another take on how crazy and how evil Randall Flagg can be before he enters into our Dark Tower read. So yes, nice little change up. It's a short novel. It's a medieval novel, medieval fantasy. So it is a nice little change of pace. from what we just read in The Stand. And yeah, it's one you can breeze through pretty quickly and get back to your Dark Tower series. So book number 4, Eyes of the Dragon. For number 5, we're going to move to The Talisman, the book that was co-written with Peter Straub. This one might be a touch of a stretch, but I do believe that this book does introduce a lot of concepts that end up being prevalent in the Dark Tower series. So I don't think this one's going to hurt. And I mean, if we're doing the expanded read, we might as well do it right. So I personally do love this novel, and I think there is enough there for it to be included into this expanded journey. So I would pick up The Talisman at number 5. Finally, we're jumping back into the Dark Tower series itself with book number 3 in the series, The Wastelands, book number 6 in our expanded read. I know it may seem a little bit nuts that you're reading 3 novels in between book 2 and 3, especially the fact that there is a cliffhanger when it comes to book 2 and 3. But I think in the long run, that's going to end up playing out more to be more exciting for you. Kind of not picking up the next book right when you get hit with that cliffhanger and resolving it right away. Sitting on it, getting a little more backstory on some Tower characters and concepts just can't hurt, and I think it would really do well for the experience. And this novel is, going like number 2, is one of the best of the series. Another novel with a lot of great character development. It introduces a couple more major characters, and this is one that is just action-packed. Next up, we're going to move right along to book number 4 and book number 7 for us today. Wizard and Glass. For those of you that have watched my ranking video, you know that I ranked Wizard and Glass as my favorite Stephen King novel out of all of them. This is my favorite book probably of all time. I've read this book multiple times and I love it every single time I read it. Just so you know, if you're new to the series, without spoiling anything, it is a flashback. The majority of the novel takes place as a flashback into Roland's past. I just believe that it just does wonders for the development of his character like you couldn't do without taking this long detour in this novel. And it just really adds to where Roland goes as a character in terms of his quest for the tower and his relationships with the rest of his quartet as well. Really great novel. It's a tragic love story. I believe this novel could be read on its own as well if you're not even into the Dark Tower series, because it's just unbelievable. And yes, we're moving right along here with book number 4 to see what Roland has to say about his past, and it is a little interlude from the journey to the tower itself. So book number 4, book number 7 for us today, Wizard and Glass. As we move along now, book number 8 in our expanded read is Salem's Lot. This one is integral. It's entirely necessary because it introduces us to a character that makes an appearance in the Dark Tower series, and it also gives us enough of a backstory as to why he is where he is when we find him in the series. So that's all I'm going to say right now, because like I said, if this is your first, if you're watching this as your first journey through the tower, then no use me explaining the name of the character and who it is. And those of you that have gone on your journey to the tower know exactly what I'm talking about, obviously. So this one is a must for sure. Okay, this next one might come as a bit of a shocker for most people, as it's not directly connected in any way to the Dark Tower series. But for book number 9, I'm going to get you to read The Mist. It's short, it's quick, and it's very good. So, I mean, there's no harm putting this on this list. The connection, in my opinion, is there is one scene in the last Dark Tower book that I believe if you do read The Mist beforehand, you'll kind of understand the connection itself, and give you a bit of a backstory as to what The Mist was exactly. The best explanation of it we're probably going to get. So, yes, at number 9, take a break, take a quick read of The Mist. Okay, so on to number 10. And again, like The Mist, even though this isn't directly connected, I think if you end up reading it before reading the rest of the series, when you get to book 7, there's a certain character you're going to come across that is going to remind you of a certain clown we all loved from this book. Now, I'm not saying it is the same character, and I think it's been proven even through Stephen King himself that it wasn't the same character, but I believe it was maybe the same species. But I mean, you can be the judge for yourself, but the only way to do that would be to make sure you've read it before you end up moving along to the Dark Tower 7. So I think now is the perfect time to get that book in. And I'm showing you my Hodder and Stoughton version instead of the North American version, just to kind of switch it up a little. This version doesn't really get love in a lot of my videos, so I think the cover is really cool on this one. But yes, I digress. Number 10 on our list, or was it 11? I think we're on 10. It. Confirmed, we are now on number 11. And we are going with Insomnia. This one, very important, must be read before you finish the Dark Tower series. I cannot stress that enough. This novel has 2 major characters that are yet to make an appearance in our series. And also one of the characters has a dream about Roland. So that's pretty cool, and you should read that before progressing along. It is a little long, obviously, but I found this book gives the most backstory. It's the most connected to the series than any other book. And I just really did love Insomnia. This one gets mixed reviews. I know it's not for everybody, and it is a little lengthy. But I think if you're embarking on this journey, this one you cannot miss out on. Insomnia, number 11. At number 12, we're going to move along to Rose Matter. Now, this one, like a couple of the other ones I've put on this list, doesn't have direct connections, but like the Talisman, it does feature concepts that we are going to see in the Dark Tower series. Also, I did see in an interview that Stephen King himself did put this book on his list of books that are connected to the Dark Tower. So yeah, I mean, hey, give it a read for yourself while you're in the middle of this, and you can be the judge. But I will say, if you decide to skip this one, you're probably not going to miss out on much. Rose Matter, number 12. Lucky number 13, we're going to move to Desperation. This novel has a lot of similarities to the Little Sisters of Alluria, I believe, in my opinion. And it also echoes a lot of concepts that we will be embarking upon in the final 3 books of the series. So I think this one is a must-read for you if you're going to do this properly. So I would put Desperation at 13. And if we're going to do Desperation at 13, at 14, obviously we're going to go to the Regulators. They are basically twinners of each other, to use a reference from the Talisman. But yes, I mean, they're very similar, obviously, because of the relation and everything like that. Yeah, I just think one shouldn't be read without the other. So, I mean, whatever Desperation was putting down in terms of connections to the Dark Tower series, I believe this one is going to do the same thing, and you should probably check it out. At number 15, we're only going to check out the short story Everything's Eventual from the compilation of the same name, Everything's Eventual. So yes, just read Everything's Eventual, as it will introduce you to a character that will come along in the series in book 7. So to get a little bit of a backstory from that character, check out Everything's Eventual. So moving along, we are going to check out The Little Sisters of Alluria. This is a short story that features Roland in it, and it's another story that will further develop Roland's backstory. So Little Sisters of Alluria is where we're going to go next at number 16. At number 17, we move along to Hearts in Atlantis, more specifically, Low Men in Yellow Coats. You're going to want to read that one. I mean, if you're dipping in to read that one, you might as well read the rest of this one, because as a whole, this book, it's got the whole 6 degrees of separation thing going on. It's really good if you haven't checked this one out. But more specifically, like I said, the main story you're going to want to read is Low Men in Yellow Coats from Hearts in Atlantis. On to number 18. Black House, another sequel to The Talisman written with Peter Straub. This one is more prominent to the Dark Tower series than the Talisman was, I believe. And it's an understatement to say it's not important to the Dark Tower series. There's a lot of elements in this one that are going to get us primed for books 5, 6, and 7 as we conclude the series. So you got to check out Black House, and to appreciate Black House, you're going to want to have read the Talisman, which makes me happy it was on my list earlier. So yes, Black House next up. At number 19, which is a very prestigious spot on this list at that number, is The Wind Through the Keyhole, which is actually the Dark Tower 4.5 that was published after the conclusion of the Dark Tower series. So we are jumping back into the main storyline here now, as this book does take place between Wizard and Glass and Wolves of the Calla. So yes, now's the time for this one. Really cool book, story within a story within a story. One you can really get lost in, and another one that kind of gives you a little more of a backstory for Roland. So yes. Okay, next up, the Dark Tower number 5, Wolves of the Calla. Now that we've got everything we need, we've got enough backstory, we've got enough introduction into characters we're going to find and elements we're going to find in the series, it's time to get back to the quartet and get ready for the home stretch of the journey. So we go into Wolves of the Calla, as this novel is action-packed. Love it. Love the atmosphere in this one. And this one really starts to set the tone for what we're in store for the rest of the way. Right after that, we pick up Song of Susanna, book number 6 in the series. This one is not my favorite. It's probably my least favorite of the series, but obviously we've got to progress along. And I just found this one got a little dark. It got a little out there. And it was almost like you're ready for the conclusion, and there was a lot of tiptoeing around in this one. But obviously an integral read, as it's next up on the list, and this one primes us for our home stretch in the Dark Tower 7. And finally, we get to our conclusion. The Dark Tower 7, The Dark Tower, aptly named. And this is it. This is the end. This is where it all culminates. And this one, let me tell you, if you've read all the books I've listed on this list, this one will be so rewarding for you, because I remember the first time reading through, you didn't really get the full effect of some of the characters and some very important characters that helped them right there at the end that you were just meeting for the first time. But to have a backstory on those characters, I can't imagine how rewarding this one would be. So get ready for the end of the Dark Tower and that open-ended ending that seems to be up for interpretation. Okay, and just to cap it off, this might be a bit of an odd request, but I think it would be pretty cool to do, and I'm probably going to do it next time I take my journey. And that would be finishing off by going back to the Gunslinger and reading it again. I think it would just be really cool to bookend the whole thing with 2 readings of the Gunslinger. And I mean, if you've never read the Dark Tower series and you don't know how it ends, when you do, you'll understand why this might make a little more sense than at first glance seems. So yes, go back into the Gunslinger. Check it out again. All right, if you stuck with me this far and you've made it to the end of this journey to the tower, I greatly, greatly thank you. Once again, if you're into this kind of stuff, if you're a big Stephen King fan, if you love reading in general, especially horror, and you love movies, collecting, anything like that, I got a vast variety of different things on this channel. Give me a subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you guys soon.